Good morning, pheasants. I recently grabbed something cool while cleaning out stuff from my dad's house. Ah, cheap fucking wire wheels. Splinter. It's a cordless drill made by Panasonic. Have you ever used a Panasonic power tool? There's a fun chart out there showing what tool brands are owned by who, and Panasonic ain't even on the list. Before you offer your condolences, my dad is still alive and healthy. I've just been swiping his tool since I was 9 years old, and I'm getting pretty good at gaslighting him about it when he comes asking. I featured my grandfather's 1960s drill / cement mixer / wrist breaker before, and you've seen this anonymous hero in a bunch of videos. Unless you've never seen one of my videos, in which case, good for you. It's never too late to click off. So yeah, turns out I've got 3 generations of power drill, all exactly 30 years apart, approximately. I'm going to take them all apart, see how the technology has changed, and hopefully get them back together. All of these have been beaten to hell, except my dad's. He's pathological about taking care of his stuff. He never leaves it outside, he cleans it when he's done, and replaces parts as needed. I bust his balls a lot for being too anal about his things, but it's also why I always borrow tools from him before anyone else, because I know they're going to work. My grandfather and I like to put them away cold, wet, and dirty, like a couple of 18th century buccaneers on shore leave. Syphilis! So they all represent years and years of honest work and wear. No toolbox queens on my workbench. I think the last time I had this out was representing the best of the West against the beast of the East. It's not that it's not a great drill, it's a bit much. Much like old Blue back there, the main function of this drill is to convert energy into noise at very low RPMs. Like my grandfather, it's pretty slow, it smells like cigarettes, and it becomes dangerous if you give it the car keys. I wanted to do a bit where I chase my screaming 2-year-old around the house like that, but NASA hadn't gotten around to inventing cordless drills yet, so that chase wouldn't have lasted very long. Also, my wife's face when I asked permission? Sometimes, she's no fun. No clips in this bad boy. It's full of screws, so you know what we'll do to you if you mess with America. Here's your variable speed trigger. It's variable from off to on, and nothing in between. It's got a handy locking mechanism for the ballsy among you. This has way too much torque to be left on cruise control for long. The beefy power switch breaks both the neutral and the hot lines. The neutral line goes straight through to the motor windings, and the hot line gets switched and then runs to this directional switch, which is how it manages to have both forward and reverse. Pretty hot for back in the day. Poppy was a baller. In forward, power goes to one winding, and in reverse, it goes to a second winding. Ignore the communist blue power cord. I had to replace it, and the only one I had of sufficient gauge was off some European compressor. The handle wiring and the motor are connected exclusively using Bakelite wire nuts. A lot of Europeans will laugh at wire nuts, saying they're unsafe and that you need to use Wagos. Listen, never take engineering advice from a country that's never been to the moon. This thing is older than you and me and still works great with those wire nuts in a very high vibration environment, no less. You ever heard of survivorship bias? Don't look it up. Here's the cast aluminum transmission housing. No ball bearings in here, just big bronze bushings. Sounds like a sleeping cat. Really grinds my gears when people say something is junk because it has bushings instead of bearings. Look, guys, we're going 500 RPM here. We don't need bearings. Well, there's a bearing. A thrust bearing. Great for axial loading, garbage for radial loading. Just like your mother. It smells like melted down Crayola crowns and jingoism in here. The Chuck has that worn out but will still outlive you feel to it. Just a spot of lube needed. I don't know if this is an indicator of quality or not, but I love when a tool goes back together like it wants to go back together. Listen. You know? How does the rotor come out? I did it before. Gonna have to rewatch my own video. Ugh. Did you think I was making these crappy videos for you? No. They exist so I can reference how I used to take my stuff apart back when I was a young warthog. When I was a young warthog! We've been through this before, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. Just admiring the basic, bare-bones, simple engineering of this high-quality American-made tool. Not much to it, and not much to go wrong. I'm not going to tell you that this tripped the breaker as soon as I put it in reverse, and since the camera wasn't rolling at the time, you can't prove it. The hell was that? What the hell was that? Oh, surge protector's on fire, right next to my waste oil drum. This is one of those moments where you get the urge to go find an adult, only to have the panicked realization that you are the adult. Guess I'll turn off the breaker. I think that's what an adult would do. How the fuck does this happen? Glad I sprung for the M edition with optional force field. This car has some really thick plot armor. What's interesting is that when the drill shorted out, it tripped 3 different breakers. Neither this surge protector nor that light fixture were even on the same circuit as the drill. So, if you have any idea how the hell that happened, I'd love to hear it. Is it a bad time to mention I have a Patreon now? Looks like I need to buy a new surge protector, and probably a Class C fire extinguisher wouldn't be a bad idea given how the last couple of videos have gone. I do early releases and plans for a bunch of other cool stuff, so if you feel like it, check it out. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with wire nuts in a metal enclosure in a high vibration environment. They work perfectly fine, especially if the outlet is grounded, which mine wasn't. There'll be no living this down. Hopefully no Europeans watch this. Let's just keep this between us patriots. Reseat them bushings. Good as new. Ish. Enough of this American versus European nonsense. Time for a drill from a country that, in my experience, has consistently made better stuff than either one. Even their worst cars score higher for reliability than American or European cars. From the Japanese company with the English name that makes your microwave, the aftermarket head unit in your 97 Camry, and the flat screen TV in your living room, I present to you a Mexican-built power drill. My dad bought this when he was younger than me on account of his contractor buddy told him these were the best. And specs-wise, it obviously isn't. But specs are relative to the market they competed in, and 12 volts was not always the entry-level voltage it is today. I think this is the first tool I ever got in trouble for taking without asking. It's the first power tool I ever held. And I can see my 9-year-old fingerprints, still on the trigger. I remember I had to hold it with 2 hands because it was too heavy with that battery in there. The whole drill just felt so quality to me, but I think I might have rose-colored glasses on. Either that or the years have been hard. The 30-year-old butyl rubber handle feels like a dried-up prison sock. I remember the chuck being smooth as butter. Maybe my dad didn't take as good a care of his stuff as I remembered. He nearly disowned me for taking my Lego pirate ship in our above-ground pool to see if it would float because he didn't want the Legos to scratch the precious liner. And in general, nothing he fixed ever broke again, so I doubt he abused his drill. Or maybe these are just the curated memories we keep of our dads, and his failures were deliberately kept secret from me to preserve his legacy and reputation. If that's the case, my sons are going to think I'm a fucking idiot. Wait till they discover this channel. It's got these crappy nickel metal hydride batteries, which I got him for Christmas over a decade ago when the originals crapped out. Now these are starting to go too, and if my cold heat soldering iron hadn't self-immolated itself, I could have used it to weld some new cells in here. Let's take it apart and see what the quality is like. Inside a Mexican-made Japanese drill. I hope it's good. Because this specific drill is a bit of a childhood hero of mine. It's the only cordless drill my dad ever had before it disappeared one day. And if it turns out to be generic Chinese crap inside, I'm going to be real salty about it. Off comes the clamshell. Ah, Dad, you didn't clean your tools enough. Seriously, 30 years and that's it? Two wires, and out comes the drivetrain. Talk about ease of service. Here's the high-low selector. We'll go into how that works a bit later. Look at that. The motor is just a twist and pull to remove it. I'm a little surprised that setup works in a high-torque motor that spins in both directions. I guess that infallible plastic housing keeps the motor from rocking and coming loose all by itself. It's pretty brilliant engineering if you ask me. Take a little look-see inside the motor. Never mind. No big loss. It just looks like a brushed DC motor. The most powerful and efficient electric motors ever devised. A top-shelf component. 1, 2 unserviceable brushes. The only reason they would make those unserviceable is because this beautiful little motor will never ever fail. The entire gearbox housing is made of plastic, and that's good because it's lighter than aluminum and it won't rust like steel. It's really the perfect material for everything, and Panasonic knew that. Whoops, those are Torx. And I'm a man who takes pride in using the right tool for the job. I wonder what this 70-year-old drill would say if it saw me installing a Torx bit in it. What the hell is this? As you can see, the ring gears are made of the same plastic as the housing. That's good to see, because rusty ring gears are a big problem with lesser drills. And plastic, like I said, doesn't rust. Here's the second stage of gear reduction, and everything in here is made of metal, which is awesome, because like I just said, metal is better than plastic in every single way. Here's your clutch mechanism. Those spring-loaded balls push against the teeth behind the second stage gearbox. When you increase the torque setting, the spring tension on those balls increases, reducing their ability to slip past the teeth. One single circlip holding the entire chuck in. That's good. Double D bore for the chuck shaft. And ouch, oh my god. It's a ball bearing with no outer race. How are these not all over the floor already? Gonna have to be very, very careful with those. You know what? Better yet, I'm just gonna put it back and pretend I never saw it. Here's the chuck itself. A little tired from years of honest work. Matsushita. It's the original or internal name for Panasonic, presumably. Biggest difference between Dad's 90s drill and Granddad's 60s drill we just looked at is the electronics. Here's the variable speed trigger mechanism. The active ingredients are a potentiometer and a transistor. Little spacer to preload the battery contacts. It has this little Hall effect sensor sniffing the ass of the motor, which is interesting because I usually only see that on brushless motors. Brushed motors like this don't usually need a feedback device like a BLDC would. It's also interesting because Hall effect sensors sense magnetic fields and there's no magnets on the back of this motor. Unless there's a magnet ring behind here? No. Huh. ID10T error. I googled the part number. This is just a big lonely power transistor that modulates the pulse width for the motor, and a big aluminum heatsink. Mounting it there threw me off. Usually they're mounted in the handle away from the hot motor. I'm assuming this has a potentiometer inside. Potentiometer, it's just a variable resistor. So current goes in, and as you move the wiper, the voltage output changes based on its position. That changing voltage isn't what directly changes the speed of the motor, of course, because potentiometers can't carry much current, and this big motor would fry one if you tried. The changing voltage is a low-power signal that's fed to some sort of chip, which then tells the big transistor how to modulate power to the motor. Whoops. Here's the wiper on the trigger, and the potentiometer printed directly on the PCB right there. The harder you press on the trigger, the less resistive the path through the potentiometer becomes, allowing more voltage to be sensed by that chip. In this case, it's a comparator, basically converting the analog signal to a digital one, and sending that to the power transistor, which takes the orders and does the heavy lifting. There's also a big old flyback diode to prevent voltage spikes from frying anything. That's a good idea. Let's make sure we got this thing back together, right? Wrong. Right. Fast forward another 30 years to my drill. You can really see the time periods reflected in the design. The unabashedly masculine, big dick, get out of my way energy of the American post-war period. The understated, simple, and dare I say demure Japanese designs of the 90s. And no, your ears don't deceive you. I V8 swapped my Miata. I'm awesome. And, of course, everything today has to look like a sci-fi weapon with angry slats and vents and functionless appeals to the immaturity of the modern buyer. Don't blame the manufacturers. It's a free market, and we're the ones buying this shit. I like sci-fi weapons. The eagle-eyed tool dorks among you will notice that this is the slightly less modern brushed version. I could have gotten the fuel version, but the longer runtime wasn't worth the increase in price and complexity to me because I have 1,700 batteries. And the extra brushless torque is pointless to me because this one already has enough power to sprain my wrists. Look at my wrists. Do you see them? Get your magnifying glass out and let me know if you can see my artisan angel hair wrists. Vermicelli! Not to lean too heavily into the father-child metaphor here, but this is a fastener from the Panasonic, and here's a fastener from the Milwaukee. Just saying. Love me, Dad? No, where's my cigarettes? Screw you, Dad. I'm gonna go strip for a living. This drill and I have fought side by side for years, and we share the scars and carbon residue from our victories. This was made in 2018. I just bought it. 25 minus 18. Oh, God. This is an evolutionary design, not a revolutionary design. Same MOSFET-based pulse width modulated speed control, but with twice the MOSFETs. It's still brushed like Dad's drill, but again, with double the brushes. The downside of all those cool vents and slashes, a ton of shit gets in here. I don't love that the brush holder and commutator are basically exposed to the elements, but what do I know? This thing's been working pretty well so far. These brushes are serviceable, which is nice. I wouldn't bother replacing them though. The entire brush holder with brushes is under $10 on Amazon, which is the equivalent of 99 cents in 2018 dollars. I don't know what kind of tree this was, but apparently it's magnetic. The rotor is the same basic concept as the Panasonic, just way prettier. I didn't know this was going to have such a nicely made motor when I bought it. It's nice to be reassured that you made the right choice 7 years ago. Somehow 7 years have passed since I picked it up and I've never been nice to it. These bearings are like brand new. Not much wear on the brushes either. I guess that big fan does a good job of creating some positive pressure differential and keeping schmutz out of the case. And for only $10 to replace them if they ever do wear out, it really doesn't make sense to buy the fuel one if your goal is to save money on brushes. Take a look at the tranny next. One sec. Oh yeah, you're a dirty girl. The high-low range selector mechanism is the same as it is in the Panasonic and just about every drill I've taken apart this side of the Nixon administration. You know, the good one. Ignore the plastic outer housing. Everything inside is made of metal. Those little plastic clips are junk, but it's the 4 screws on the outside that are really holding it together. Just like the Panasonic, you've got a planetary gear set, except no plastic in this one. When you move the speed selector into high, it disengages the first ring gear and engages the second one. Hold on a second. All these planet gears have their own world's smallest needle bearing. That is just adorable. I love that. Stage 2 doesn't have any bearings, but it's going much slower by that point, so who cares? Out comes stage 3. And here you see a different approach to the clutch mechanism, but the same basic principle. I suspect a lot of these differences are because this drill has a hammer function for you rock munchers and concrete junkies out there. The rest of the chuck assembly appears to be press fit together. I love y'all, but not as much as I love my drill. I use it every day, and I'm not going to risk ruining it for some crackerjack video. Last time I made a video with this drill, I got in trouble for not testing it, so here you go.
Oh, yeah.
That's an experience. A manly drill. A drill for the manliest of men. Considering that these replacement batteries themselves are now dying, I think it's only fair to give the Panasonic a fighting shot. There's no shame in taking help from your kids. 12 volts is 12 volts. High gear. Damn keyless chucks. I guess the drill draws more than 10 amps. Popping fuses and breakers all up in this bitch. I picked one of these out for my dad for Christmas after his Panasonic mysteriously disappeared, and that's as strong a vouch as I can give a tool. It is not, in fact, hammer time. Damn keyless chucks. So that's it. I love this old wrist snapper, but I'm grateful we don't have to deal with these anymore. It's just a cool thing to have around the shop, or mix concrete with. The technological leap to this is massive. I like that it doesn't look like a toy, even if the performance is starting to age like milk. This is the ugliest girl I've ever seen, but it's also one of the best I've ever used. I wish they still made them. Maybe one of my sons will own a brushless, turbine-powered, AI-enabled Neuralink drill, and then he can add a fourth generation to this lineup. Or maybe they'll be lawyers or business majors or something stupid, and then they won't even own drills. Let's not think about that. You put the lime in the coconut and mix it all up. You put the lime in the coconut and mix it all up. You put the lime in the coconut and mix it all up.